All right, we're now recording. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's presentation on the Service Catalog and Portal. I'm glad you're here. This is a topic that consistently appears in conversations on the ITSM community group list, and one that, if you know me personally, is near and dear to me. This is why I'm pleased to hosting this event and honored to present our speaker, Phyllis Drucker. Phyllis is an innovative and focused professional with more than 20 years of experience in business IT strategy, enterprise service management, governance, customer service and support, ITSM tool implementation, HR automation, and team building. You're a busy person, huh, Phyllis?
I have been.
After more than 20 years in the support industry, she's taking her thought leadership out to the community by focusing on writing and speaking. In addition to her activities as a blogger, she's a published author, and her book, Service Management Online, Creating a Successful Service Request Catalog, is available through the TSO. I have a copy. I can personally recommend it. She's also an experienced international speaker, having delivered keynotes and conferences breakout sessions since her first speaking engagement in 1997. Where were you in 1997, right? You can follow Phyllis.
I was 5, by the way.
There you go. Yes, I wasn't born yet. Yeah, there you go. You can follow her on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, and visit her website at, I'm going to have to slow it down when I say this, ez2bgr8.com. I'll go ahead and post a link in the chat for everyone if you want to check it out. Okay. All right, so today's presentation, the actual presentation will last between 45 and 55 minutes with time left over for Q&A. And, you know, we encourage you to add your questions to the Q&A window. We will review them and make sure that we address them. We encourage all attendees to use the chat to talk to each other. And this webinar is being recorded and will be available within on the EDUCAUSE ITSM website within 5 business days. Without further ado, I'll turn it over to Phyllis.
So hi, everyone. First things first, I just want to thank you all for taking time out of what's usually a very, very busy day to come be with me and give me an opportunity to talk about my favorite topic, which is the service portal. Really become a favorite topic because I've gone into so many organizations that struggle with it. And it became something that I thought it's better to train people on how to do it right than it is to just come in and consult and build it for them and then walk away, because then it ends up reverting back to whatever it was before I got there. So I've been writing about it, speaking about it, training people on it for many, many years. So I really appreciate the opportunity to come and also learn from you. Every time I do a presentation, I learn something from at least one person in the audience, whether it comes in from a question, a chat, or whether we're interactive in a room together. So thanks for taking time to be with me. So today we're going to talk about the service portal. I'm going to assume that no one knows anything, because that gives me the opportunity to make sure that everybody is familiar with what I'm saying and we don't leave anybody behind. So, you know, basically bringing everybody to the party. So the service portal really is an online service channel. You all know about channels like phones and email and so forth. But the service portal is that online portal. And it's not necessarily, you know, a particular vendor's service portal or service catalog product. It's an entry point to an organization. So if you think about it in the education community, you know, you probably have a student portal and may have had a student portal for years and years and years and years. That's no different than an IT portal that you offer for IT services. It is a portal. I would say that for the last 12 or 13 years, I've been talking about enterprise service management and the opportunity for a portal to be an enterprise-wide approach. So giving your employees, your students, your faculty, your deans, a single point of entry to everything that's being offered in the university. That's how I envision the portal. So that's why it says it's the entryway to the services provided by the organization, not just the IT services, all of the services. So, you know, when Mitch contacted me, it was in the conversation of the portal having the worst user experience of any support channel. And I was like, whoa, why do we have a bad support experience? The portal should offer a great support experience. And the answer was that when you actually look at portals developed in organizations, the way we've rolled them out, they're not so great. And I've been building portals for about the last 12 years in a couple of different products and tools. And yet I find that when I go in and look at existing portals, they're going to, really have some of the pitfalls you're going to see later in this presentation. And basically, the reason is we started doing portals because we thought we could lower our call volume and let people log things 24/7. They wouldn't need us so much. But really, if it's designed that way, it's not going to get the adoption that you're looking for it to have. The other thing is, I find that when you look at an IT portal in particular, it's hard to find things. And it's hard to find things because they're very often organized in the way that IT thinks, not in the way our users think, not in the way an employee would think. And then, of course, another big one is there's not enough information. I can't find what I want. What I want isn't actually available. There's no effort made to make it a great user experience. And by the way, when I do find the thing that I need and I log the ticket, I still don't know how long it's going to take. I still have no idea who's working on it. So it becomes like a black hole. And, that's some of the portal experiences. Now, I've got a couple of questions. Oh, okay. That one's been answered. I just want to take a look at the chat.
Yeah, it was a question about disparate portals, and I mentioned that you have a slide around some of that, but I encouraged anyone that would ask a question like that, make sure you bring it up again if the question's not answered.
Sure, great. And yeah, I've got a lot of slides here. I'm going to talk about the portal design pitfalls, tips and tricks, some of the things you should be thinking about, as well as providing a roadmap at the end. So I'm going to pull it all together. This is really a very deep dive into the portal experience. So, these pitfalls that I'm going to talk about are what I've seen in that 12 years of building portals. When I go in and I'm replacing an existing portal, what do I see when I walk in the door? And what are the things that in particular hurt customer adoption? So you're going to find a lot of these, are definitely things you've seen in a portal. So the first one, and this is, I think that was the question, right? Too many portals. And what you're seeing here is not necessarily including all of the higher education portals, right? This is just in corporate America, all the different portals you would potentially see. So now add all of the online services that the professors use, add that student portal to that, add, if there's a registrar portal, everything that you do within the university system, add it to this too many portals. When you have that many portals, people get confused. And the other thing is every portal has a different experience. So I don't have any kind of unified experience for interacting with providers in my organization. So that's pitfall number one, which goes with our first poll. So just getting an idea of how many portals you have in place. Notice you can click more than one box. So if you've got an enterprise portal and a student portal, you can do both of those, but click what applies. Well, that's what I'm gonna
give it a few minutes. Looks like we're about 50% participation. The numbers are climbing. Give it a few more seconds. I just encouraged our attendees to throw in, if there's an other, throw that in chat for you.
So I'll keep the chat up and running. Well, the IT portal IT support, kind of represents that, but it's also, in the chat, there's, it's missing from the general portal.
I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. Looks like we're at about 80% participation. So I'll go ahead and share the results, Phyllis, if that's okay.
Yep, let's do it.
So now I'm sharing the results.
So wow. So 73% having an enterprise portal is actually very encouraging. Student portal, the vast majority have the student and employee portals, separate HR portals. And think about all of those other items that are up there. So while many of you are going in that direction of the enterprise portal, I'm really encouraged because that's really where I would want to take you, is towards that enterprise portal. And in the higher education community, I'm going to define that enterprise portal as one that also includes what would be in a student portal, what the professors might need access to, and any specialized departments that have specialty portals that are education related that are not up on the slide. I would love to see a single portal that branches off the college's website, the university's website. So that's kind of the first thing I'd be looking at from an enterprise, from an employee or student experience, is that I have one place to go for everything I need. And I'm gonna just look through some of these. Somebody clicked enterprise because IT wasn't on the list. Yes, we're defining portals differently. This is a great comment, and I wanted this to be as interactive as possible, even though the webinar environment means you're speaking through chat. Does it count as an enterprise portal if it encompasses some but not all the business units outside of IT? It's moving in that direction. So I look for everyone to be moved into it, but you have to start somewhere, right? So if you have some of the departments, but not everyone, the work is to keep growing it, keep expanding. Someone says we have a separate HR portal because we use it through vendor and we link to it through our enterprise portal. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that approach. So yeah, it sounds like there's some really good encouraging directions going on. So that's pitfall number one. Let me click back on a slide. So the next one is too little value. And this one is actually in the book that Mitch was talking about at the beginning. It's where do you get the most business value when you put requests into your service catalog portion of your portal. And a lot of times I see that there's a huge investment in technical requests, like IT to IT catalog or HR to IT is very robust. And then there's some of the most common user requests, but we don't ever get it to the point where I'm doing everything in an automated fashion. So the highest value items are those complex items that I could put in a portal and fulfill automatically. Now, I want to think about the onboarding process as I'm talking about this. Think about the first bullet up there. If I need a copy of a pay stub, I should be able to go into a self-service environment and get it. I have automated employment verification letters where the person goes to a portal, they fill something out, they say, I do want my salary on it, and the letter comes to them in a PDF format within a minute or two. So think that, and when you're thinking from an IT perspective, we all know the App Store environment. And I always get pushback when I say that. Well, it can't be an App Store environment. How could I do an App Store when I have to get approval? Well, it could be an App Store-like experience. When the approvals are all gathered and complete, they get an email with a link that they click, or they get a chat with a link that they click, and the software can be pulled down at their convenience. So there's an almost automated functionality, but anything you can automate should be automated. And that's, again, where that highest business value is going to go. Beating that dead horse into the ground. That lack of automation is one of the biggest things that I see in portals. Most portals that I see, the only automation are IT to IT requests and usually virtual servers. That's the biggest thing that I see. So the more, and give yourself a pat on the back every time I say I go in and I don't see these things. If you've got it, pat yourself on the back. The 3 bullet points, that's really where I'm starting to look now, because the App Store is old hat by now, right? We've been doing it for years and years where we can do it. But access provisioning based on HR integration to IT systems, so that when somebody changes a job, everything automatically shifts for them, gets changed for them. Their new access is provisioned, access they no longer need is taken away. Or when I onboard someone, they get everything that they need automatically. The second bullet about the CMDB and health scans. Oh, wait, you're talking about Portal. This is a Portal presentation. Where did she come in to CMDB health scans that open tickets automatically? Because just because you have a portal doesn't mean you should force people to go log tickets. Wouldn't it be great if a system figured out that I have a small problem with my laptop and the portal sent me a notification with a link and I checked it and I saw that I'm having a hard drive issue, and on Tuesday, my replacement laptop is going to be in the locker, or I could click here to have it shipped to me. And I click if I want it shipped to me. Imagine that level of user experience. So this is where I'm upping the game a little bit and raising that bar and saying, hey, the things that we've done in the past, especially in a hybrid environment or a fully remote environment, they're no longer good enough for us. So
Hey,
this is,
Phil, let me
again,
take a question back on the disparate portals.
yep.
We have a person asking about what suggestions would you have for organizations? So they're spread out geographically. They've got campuses in two countries and several states. Wow. And some services are only available based on your location.
I love it. So the first thing is you should know the person's location. Most of the portal tools that I deal with have ways that you can use information about the individual to publish only those things that they should see. So I typically will publish by location. You know, even computers, if you think about computers, if you go to the model level or the brand level, you might use different computers in different countries. I was the last project I was working on, there was a group in Israel and a group in the United States, and Israel had services that nobody else had. So based on their location, if their country was Israel, they saw those items. One thing I will talk about a little bit later is foundation data. So pay attention to that piece, because that's going to be how you get there. I love it. Somebody said, this is genius. I love the integrations. Okay, looks like there's nothing more in the portal. Anyone have any really cool stuff that you've automated? Anyone using QR codes to open tickets through the portal, or dash buttons, any other ways of automating ticket entry that have them not go to the portal? See, notice I'm talking about portal, but you see how many questions I'm asking that say, are you doing anything that gets stuff into the portal without them having to go to the portal? And I'll get to that. But lack of automation is one of the pitfalls, because if you can automate it, you raise the experience by having them go to the portal, request something, and have it automatically. Yeah, someone did say that they're working on QR codes to open tickets for desktop services, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. The ability to log tickets without having to physically go to the portal, but to then use the portal to see the status of the ticket, to add any information that the tech might need, using the portal as a communication tool, sometimes after the fact. And that's a good level of automation. Automated access provisioning, I love it, yes. And QR codes at walk-up locations.
Yeah, and Phil, as Cheryl pointed out, I know a lot of my colleagues are exploring Teams or Slack or some other channel of engagement where people meet people where they're at to allow automatic creation of tickets and, in the portal. So
yeah, and why I'm raising this is because the portal is only one channel, and how your support organization works in the big picture, and how much automation you leverage and how easy you make it for people, that is why they don't have a good user experience. And they blame the portal, but the portal's only a piece of it. But the portal can't have a great user experience unless IT offers, or your enterprise offers, a great user experience. Somebody made a note up here about access to DocuSign. And that's the big one. DocuSign, Adobe Sign, automated signatures. That's how you automate many of those items, particularly in an HR environment. So this is great. Some great feedback coming here. I just need to get the slide to advance. There we go. A little bit too fast. Here's the one that the person was asking about before, right? Good foundation data. So when we were talking about how do I deliver an item only to the people that should see that item, you have to have full employee information. So when I'm talking about employee information, I'm not talking about personal information. There is HR information that's needed by HR and should be secured that only, so that only HR can see it. I'm talking about where are they located? What is their phone number? What's their title? What department are they part of? What's their grade level, or, are they an executive, a manager, an analyst, that kind of information. The hierarchical relationship, so that when somebody submits something, I know who their manager is to get it approved. That location information. And the biggest failure I see in many organizations is they just can't find the time to take it down to the desk or cube level if you're still in an office. So, think about that. I need to know where to send it to or where to go to if I actually do have to touch something on a desktop. Vendors and contracts, and contact people, very important information if you have an enterprise portal and you're working with vendors. And then, knowing what equipment each and every individual has. Trying to build a portal without complete data is going to result in a bad user experience. And I'm going to give you my pet peeve, right? I go to the portal to request something. I have to fill in my name, my phone number, my email, my location. I have to tell you who my manager is. So it takes me, 2 or 3 minutes just to give you the information to get started logging the ticket, when there's really no reason you should have to ask me that. And the reason I usually find in organizations is IT hasn't worked successfully with HR to get that information from the employment records. So that's worth the time it takes to do it, and to work with facilities to understand the desktop information, the location information.
Yeah, and Phyllis, this is particularly challenging for higher ed, and I don't think I'm alone in this, that there's not a single source of good foundational data. It's all over the place. So you've got several HR departments, you've got several payroll, you have different departments, different business units or academic units hold certain pieces of information about the student. So it's really hard for us to aggregate and have that data, all that data accessible, so that we know everything about the person that's calling.
Yeah, and your solution is going to be different for your employees versus your students, right?
Different systems of record, yes.
Exactly. So you may have multiple integrations, and this is where that whole concept of the enterprise portal becomes so important, because at the end of the day, if you have to work with 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 different organizations, they're going to have more buy-in if they're part of the same portal you're using. So I'm not talking about something that's built in a day. It's difficult to get there, but this is why the experience is poor, which is why you had me come today, right? Was to talk about why don't we have a good user experience? So somewhere you've got to normalize that data. You've got to say, hey, we have student data in 5 different systems. How do we know it all agrees? Well, one should be the system of record, and it should populate the others. And that includes your portal tools. So, it starts to get into a lot of complex issues in the university. Yeah, rallying in the enterprise. And how can you impress upon HR that they have to get that information? HR has that information. Think about it. When you onboard, they have that information. They just don't necessarily want to share it, or they may not be automated enough that it's in a system you can get to. So there may be work to automate HR before you can even get it into your portal. And a lot of times I've gone in to do initiatives in organizations where they are bringing HR into a portal. So that's part of why. Or universities, you're too big now for HR not to have that information at their fingertips. So if they haven't already started automatic onboarding and putting people in, they're already behind the eight ball. So then we get to another one of my favorites, meaningless taxonomy. And just look at your portal and look at the 2 examples here. very often they're very silo-based, or how the provider thinks of things, rather than being a way that an employee would think of something. So an employee doesn't think about going to an HR portal for benefits. They think about going to some, or category. They think about going to benefits. I need help with benefits. They don't necessarily know that benefits is total rewards, but HR puts a category in their service catalog called total rewards. So this is where some of your digital design thinking comes in. Okay, so this is our second poll.
Sorry, I was invested in the chat. I'll go ahead and spin up the poll here.
And I'll look at the chat while we're. I know I'm going a little slower than expected because I'm invested in the chat as well.
Yeah.
So, think about your taxonomy, and is it more like a department listing, silo-based, or more functional? And if it's a little of both, pick the one that is dominant. You could have some really good moments in your taxonomy and then some areas that need work. And by the way, some of your tools sort of force you into silo-based mentality, but they're getting better.
I'll give it a few more seconds. We're about 70% participation. Just get those numbers up a little bit.
And while they do that, I'm going to slip in a quick story. Think about onboarding, or not story, but just a concept, silo-based. I'm in a silo-based portal. I have HR, IT, office services. Where do you put onboarding? Onboarding is all three of those. I need desks or a place for that person to work. I need IT stuff, and I need HR stuff. Okay, I think we could probably get the results.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and end poll and then share the results.
So looks like 2/3 are silo-based and 1/3 is functional. So you see already, that's a very simple thing to change that doesn't cost any money. It costs some time and some internal resources, and it might cost some development. You might have to pay for development if you don't have internal development, but it doesn't cost a lot of money to change the organization of your portal. And most people today actually do search. They don't browse, but you still want a taxonomy that makes sense. So now we've seen the pitfalls. I'm going to talk a little bit about the transformation. I've gone into many organizations where the executives want to see an innovative portal and automation, and they want me to tell them what to do. And I start working with their organization, and they're nowhere near ready for that level of innovation. So I thought about, well, what do you need if you're ready to transform your portal experience? And the first thing is that readiness. So don't even try to change the portal experience if your providers and the people offering those services want to do it the way they've always done it. You're just going to be, swimming upstream there. The other is, the second piece is focusing on that customer experience. Now, if you attended last week or didn't attend and can listen to it on demand, the design thinking webinar, they were talking about winning the hearts and minds of people. From a customer experience, to be able to win their hearts and minds, you have to know what they want. You have to know what they don't like about your portal. You have to know what they would like to see in the portal. So you really have to be ready to focus on that customer experience. And then from an innovation standpoint, you have to be ready to innovate. If you're not ready to innovate, all you're going to be doing is making a nicer, not so great portal. And then the planning. Portals are a lifetime commitment. You're not going to build your portal overnight. I talked about the whole enterprise thing where you might have 4 or 5 providers now, but maybe there's 20 organizations that you need to bring in. It's a long, agile project. But if you have a vision and an overarching strategic plan, it ensures that the final result is what you envisioned when you were talking to your customers at the beginning. So that's what you need in place to transform your portal. Now let's ask the next poll, which is how many of you actually think that you're ready to do that? And I'm going to tell you that readiness is the #1 problem that I see. If you're not ready, if you find yourself answering no, you start with an organizational readiness initiative to get people ready. You start winning them over slowly until they are ready, or you find out what they're ready to do, what level of change they're ready to do, and you do that and you keep winning them over, and then you start innovating.
Looks like we're at 64%. I'll give just a second or two more.
Yeah, some people may not want to admit on this one, right?
It's anonymous.
And it's okay, because that's why you're here, right? Some of you may be here because you want to transform, but and especially in a university system where you could have multiple campuses. And by the way, I worked for a it's more of an educational institute that does, they have college level, they have certification programs, nursing programs, medical, all of that sort of thing. And they were all over the world, and they had classrooms all over the United States. And we were able to do some pretty cool stuff, even though they were extremely diverse. Okay, we should have an answer by now.
I'll go ahead and I think personally, there's a lot of organizations that are considering changes and have it in sort of their roadmap. Maybe not wide sweeping changes, because we realize the impact this has and the amount of collaboration required. But I know a lot of my colleagues are looking at, how do we start to enhance the experience, right?
Yep.
So I'll go ahead and share the results.
Yep. Yeah, most people aren't ready. That's what I find. 65% not quite ready. So we have a little bit of a change management experience. So there's a couple of things in the chat that are worth bringing on. One is, it takes an outside in perspective. I have conversations with our service delivery teams, changed our RT portal last summer, have been slowly expanding to other departments. That's great. That's the link to the event that I mentioned from last week. That was a great conversation. I feel like change management and coordination is not at all simple. Making such a change, it's from department to function. It's not simple. It's easy to do, but getting the adoption for changing the taxonomy is not simple. So a lot of the things that I'm say it's pretty easy to do. It comes down to this. What makes it a big deal is people's readiness for it. Would like to see more functional portal experiences, examples. Yeah, that I can talk about that if we have time towards the end. But I think by the time I finish, you'll get a sense of where I'm heading. So now I'm going to talk about some of the things. This is the constructive part. This is the how-to. What should you be looking at? How do you approach transforming your portal? So you notice the first thing it says is that if you're going to transform your portal, it really requires you to look at your support experience holistically. And I've seen some great feedback on that in the chat and such, that people are starting to use more innovative technologies for support. And I think in very many ways, COVID and making everything go remote has increased the level of innovation we see in a lot of organizations. The other thing is, especially in higher ed, blending technologies is going to be necessary to get you where you want to go. So that's something to keep in mind, is working holistically means I'm integrating a lot. There are a lot of special applications used in higher ed that can affect your portal. Now, I bring this up because I keep talking about support channels. And I've got all the support channels you typically see listed here with what they are. Understand that phone and email are starting to get to be legacy support channels. A lot of organizations are trying to get out of the email business. Yes, we can log a ticket automatically, but usually the ticket that we log isn't that great, and it puts me into telephone tag. And I say phone is legacy because in a lot of organizations, they're moving to products like Teams where I could start in a chat, but if I want to talk to that person, I could just engage them over the phone call capability from within that Slack or chat or Teams or whatever technology I'm using. And that the whole idea of chat and chatbots, if you have a really good ticket history between artificial intelligence and knowledge, chatbots could do a lot of level 1 support and make it look like they were talking to an individual. Takes a lot of work to get it that good. A lot of chatbots aren't quite there yet, but it's a good place to start. And then walk-up support, even though I'm talking about Portal, at some point, if something is broken, I still have to touch it. And how am I going to touch it? Walk-up support and lockers become a very easy way to touch it. Now, in the red arrow on the bottom, it talks about omni-channel support. A lot of people, and if you go to my website, you can go to an article about omni-channel support. My blogs are linked out from there. So it's a great way to access all of my free content. But omni-channel support is not offering all these channels. Omni-channel support really refers to, I start with the chat bot. It sends me a link to a request in the portal. As I'm doing that request, I have a question, and now it's getting too complicated for me to do it, and I need a human. And I go from the chatbot to the portal to the human, and when I get to the human, they see everything I've already done and all the information that is already following my ticket. So the chatbot might start that ticket. What I'm doing in the service portal might also get logged. When I reach the agent, they see that I logged a ticket and I had a chat session. That's omni-channel support. Omni-channel support is taking the customer from their first contact in any channel to the last contact in whatever channel it ends up being, and bringing the history of their attempt throughout. Easily achieved? Not necessarily. Good goal? Absolutely. And as I come into the modern approaches, I'm actually gonna go back to talk a little bit about omni-channel. My cable TV provider, and I want you to, this is the good, the bad, and the ugly about portals and support. They have an unbelievable system. When your cable box is having errors, reporting errors, they know everything. Their configuration management, patch management, everything at the device level is phenomenal. But when you actually have a problem, trying to use any channel is painful. If you go to the portal, you can't find what you're looking for. So you spend 20 minutes on the portal and then you call them, and they spend 20 minutes trying to convince you that you should go to the portal. Well, if I could have gotten it out of the portal, I would have gotten it at the, out of the portal. So, is that a good user experience? And if I went blank for a minute, it's because I'm just looking at some of the comments. The comments are great, by the way. I just wanted to see if there was anything I needed to address.
Yeah, Phyllis, there's a couple questions queued up, but feel free to take them now or when it's more appropriate.
Let's see what they are, because if we go a little longer, we go a little longer.
Yeah.
We're adding more campuses to our service now. Oh, yeah. I love this. We're adding more campus units to our ServiceNow platform. What would you recommend for onboarding them? We have one portal and have added some units already, but I believe more units will want their own portal. That's where, when I talked about the fact that this is a lifetime commitment, that vision and doing this as an agile project becomes so important. So you need to create an onboarding process for onboarding campus units, right? What are some of the things that you do each time? And what I would do is I would go back and I would look at the units you've already onboarded. What did you do? What were the activities? And then put that together like a checklist. But the other thing is, as I go through the deck, pay attention in that onboarding of the unit to how you're going to manage the digital design aspects of it. And I'll, again, be talking a little bit more about that. The next one, classic service catalog versus service request catalog. I'm not sure there's a difference. I use the word service request catalog to talk about the automated online catalog. If you're coming from the world of ITIL, the services you offer in the service catalog that are part of your service portfolio are part of your service request catalog, but usually it's offerings associated with that services. That's a topic for the whole 3-day class. That's not a 5-minute answer. Refining an existing portal. Yes. It says, what are your recommendations in refining an existing portal that is fairly effective, but you can use continuous improvement? I'm going to hold that one till the end, because I think as we start with some of the slides I'm doing, it's going to all fall into place. So the first thing you want to do as you're innovating your portal is to start with modern approaches for support. So before you even start that portal continual improvement, start looking at your support organization. And maybe at this point in time, bring in people, students, faculty, administrators, people that use your services, people from other campus units, other provider units, multiple campuses, do multiple, several focus group type meetings and find out what their pain points are, what they love, what they hate. Use that to create your continual improvement program for support. But start thinking about all of the modern things that you should be doing from a support experience perspective before you start thinking about your portal. Because your portal is going to sit on top of that. And then know all of the components that you need to have in your portal. So many people, and that question was a great question about the service catalog versus service request catalog, right? Your goods and services are your service catalog. Online, it's your service request catalog. It's the same thing. That's usually what people have in their portal. But the 3 things on the left, information, knowledge, and links, this is where you're really going. When I set that vision of the university having a website, and from that website, I get all the information about the university that's public, but then I have places that I go depending who I am once I log on, that I can get further information and other important links, knowledge, how-tos, FAQs. All of that is important to have a really good portal. It doesn't stop at the service catalog portion of it. The next thing is build up your knowledge of your catalog. So here is where you start. Somebody asked me that I'd like to see, more examples. So when you think about your catalog, when you get to that service catalog piece on the right, you have 3 areas. You have the products that everybody offers. You have the services that various people offer, and you have the support that various people offer. This is where, if you want to build a great taxonomy, get some of those same people back in the room and do a sticky exercise. Put all the products, services, and support on stickies on a very big wall and start organizing them. See how you fall out. Remember, equipment is equipment is equipment, whether it's a piece of office equipment like a postage, the machine that puts postage on an envelope, or it's a printer, or it's a desktop. They're still equipment. Think about that. And then, the next big one is you've got to understand the experience that people want. And you've got to have, this is the vision, right? What do people want? What's most important to them today? What could they wait for? I am going to tell you that the one in the middle, automated onboarding, job change, and terminations or separations, has been, for me, before I left full-time work, the most popular initiative that we got hired to do when I was with Cognizant. Most of the projects I worked on within the last 3 years were automated onboarding. And by the way, automated onboarding fixes all your foundation problems. You do that, you take care of your foundational issues. because it's starting in HR. But, you know, understand what they want to see. And then this is one you really want to think about. A lot of people think they have to keep the portal behind the firewall. You might want to keep your CMDB, your tickets, some of that, you know, the technical view of things behind a firewall. But your shopping experience has no need to be behind a firewall. So the portal, the ability to shop, should be available from any device, anywhere, anytime. I have had situations where certain information was information they didn't want outside the firewall. So we masked that information when it was accessed outside the firewall. So whether it's, if it's pulling up a social security number, part of a social security number, or a home address as part of an HR process, they didn't want people to see that outside the firewall. That's fine, but you still can get to the portal. So, you know, think about that. Predictive proactive tickets automatically. My last conference that I went to, I saw at least 4 or 5 tools where artificial intelligence and the CMDB product are mature enough to know when a device at any level, down to the user desktop, mobile devices, don't have the appropriate patches, software version levels, security fixes, you name it. They can tell when it doesn't have it. They can use monitoring to know that there's an issue. They can give every device a health score. You can set a health score threshold, and if that score is below a certain amount, it automatically creates those tickets. So understand what your people want it to do. You might not be doing that right out of the gate. That might be 2 years down the road, but understand what people want. And then, you know, so now I have the 5 tips, right? So the first is to maintain that experience focus, fix that multiple portal experience that they have today. It is valid to have a link to another portal from inside of a single pane of glass. So again, that university website, I log in, even if it's multiple portals, I should always be logging into the university portal to get to them. Now, don't knock yourself, don't drive yourself crazy. If they know how to get to the third-party benefits provider's website without going through the university portal, don't lock it down, but make it available from inside that university portal as well. So, you know, what I'm saying is don't break what's working for them today. Just make that experience centralized for those people that don't know where the benefits website is. Have it all be in a single place and part of that taxonomy. This is the slide I've been waiting for because this is what some of you are dancing around. You're dancing around it very directly. But I wanted to get to maintaining that experience focus and design thinking. If you, again, I'm going to say it's in the chat. If you didn't attend that design thinking webinar, go listen to it because it's going to talk about really understanding the emotions of the people that are using the tool that you're designing. So in this case, we're applying design thinking to the portal, and your digital blueprints are a way to get that emotion. So a digital blueprint, you bring them in, you look at a process, you whiteboard out, whether it's with stickies or markers or on a webinar screen, you start talking about today's current process. By the way, a lot of people use a product called Miro. It's a digital blueprint designer. It might be free, or a limited version of it might be free. But basically documenting the process with your end users, with those other providers that are involved in it, and then find out what they feel about it. You know, what are their pain points? Talk to them about, if they have a pain point, what they'd like to see. That's your digital blueprint process. Then in value stream mapping, you start looking at how it gets delivered from a fulfillment perspective, and you can start to see where the bottlenecks are. And that's where, once I know where things are bottlenecking and causing pain points, that's an opportunity for automation. How can I use automation to handle that? In an onboarding process, I worked for an organization that had high compliance, they had high compliance needs. People had to sign off on like 20 different policies before day one. And they used to have to collect it manually. All of that became automated. Still painful that you have to read and sign off on 20 of them, but a lot easier when you're doing it on your phone. And then journey mapping, using what you gathered, create that future state, map the future state journey for them, and do the design. Now, someone's going to ask, if they haven't already, well, do I do that for everything in the portal? And the answer I would give you is you need to do it for the portal itself, and you need to do it for the complex services like onboarding, for example. And I wouldn't do it for every product in the portal, but I might do it for every class of products. So computers, mobile devices, office equipment, teaching equipment, classroom equipment, overheads, those kinds of things. I might do it for each one of those classes. You might spend a lot of time doing this, but again, at the end, it's that experience focus. Tip 2, basic. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because if you're not meeting your service levels today, you have a bigger problem than your portal. But it's also worth looking into experience level agreements and that whole experience management arena to see how you can create an experience that people want and contract yourself to meet that experience. Tip 3 is that taxonomy again. A service taxonomy is really looking at how you classify those services. So when I start talking about the store, your products can go into a university store, campus store. And that store can be broken out by computing, mobile devices, classroom equipment, whatever makes sense to your end users, but make sure it makes sense to them. And for the person that asked about wanting samples, I'm going to tell you, as many organizations as I've gone into, everybody organizes it differently when I start working with users. So examples could put you down the route of going and seeing a really great example that worked in one organization that won't work in yours. The organization could come from working with your users. Tip 4, work like the internet. You've all shopped Amazon. Your shopping experience and cart experience and delivery of items should be as good as Amazon. Where you're offering help, how many people search YouTube looking for fixes? Well, you could do that too if you want to have a help how to, fix something in a classroom. Do a video of it. So think about all of the different technology that's available to make your experience robust. Again, we come back to that universal taxonomy, extensive catalogs, not built in a day. Remember, when Amazon started, they sold books, but Jeff Bezos knew he wanted to be the biggest department store in the world when he started selling books. What is your vision? Your vision is bringing the entire campus and all campus services together into a single portal. I'm going to start with IT, HR, finance, and office supplies, or classroom needs, but I'm going to get to the biggest campus provider out there. So start working like the internet. And here's the one that I've been pushing all along, right? Your stakeholders. So your requesters, fulfillers, and approvers are one group of stakeholders that you want to get to and do some of that design thinking work with. But don't forget the people that are expert at it. And it's not just those people you hired to be user experience experts. It's also your communications and marketing. You, especially in a campus environment, you have people that are marketing the university. What do they think that portal should be? What do they want to be able to tell prospective students and faculty as they go out and try to bring them into the organization? So think about getting them in a room. And then finally, making sure that you hit every group. Faculty, students, administrative staff. So this tip 5 is probably, if you looked at the tips, tip 1, make it enterprise, and tip 5, engage everyone. Those are 2 critical tips. So I'm gonna take a breath and I'm gonna,
Yeah, we have 2 questions in
Okay.
the Q&A if you wanted
Yep,
to
and we're
jump
get-
that.
yeah, and we're also at that point, right? So
You want to
regarding the
finish
recommendations for refining the existing portal, this is the slide. You got the tips, you've gotten what you have to do to be ready. I would never scrap, unless you're replacing your tool, I wouldn't scrap the portal. I would do it in a continuous improvement method. I do a lot of gap. I'm going to come to the last one after the roadmap, because I think the roadmap is part of the answer to the other question, right? You all have that portal out there. I want to get to the future state portal. What am I going to do? This is what you're going to do. You saw the stakeholder list I gave you in the last set of slides. Gather those stakeholders. With them, figure out what that experience should be. Here's where you create that experience improvement plan. Notice it's not a continual improvement plan for the portal. It's what is their experience of support and the portal today, and what's our improvement plan? Then create the portal vision, and you might want to have that gap conversation, right? Do the blueprint of that current experience. Then use those other technologies, the value stream mapping to get rid of fulfillment bottlenecks, create those future state journey maps, and design what it looks like. Now, there are a lot of tools out there that let you prototype with click-throughs and get a design that you like. So do that first. Don't touch the portal. Let it sit there. Start looking at what that effort is going to be and how you would stage it over what does the first 3 months look like? What do the next 2 years look like? Then create, your project plan, gather your funding, and start beginning the work on the individual items. And that's going to bring me to the area where I have to talk about the individual items. Oh, that was in the Q&A. Recommendations for decomposition of services. Onboarding is a single service, right? But think about how many things are in the onboarding process. I put them all together. So I can't answer this question with an absolute. You have to go through the journey mapping and design process, the value stream mapping process. Because one of the worst experiences in a portal today is what you do when you onboard a new staff member, or maybe even onboard a student, right? They have to fill out stuff to get their IT requests. They might have to fill out 5 different IT requests, maybe 10. Then they've got to do all this stuff that they need to do for HR and parking and badges and documentation and policies they have to review. And if I have to go do that in a million different places in the portal, I am fed up. But if I have one onboarding process that pushes everything to me as it's time for me to do it, way better. So I would have an aggregate service and use workflow to break it into distinct tasks. So at the end of the day, that onboarding process might have 100 distinct tasks, different places in the organization, or it might have automated processes that kick off. That's a much better user experience. So when you start looking at do I aggregate it or decompose it? That's not a question you want me to ask. That's the question you want to get your people involved in. Okay, so that's the last of the questions. I'm just getting rid of this one. And, that was the last slide. So this is where we can start, it was a lot to digest there. A lot of people have had to, some people have had to jump off.
Yeah,
you
we
know, at the
anticipated
dot.
that. So we're trying to
Yeah.
do the presentation within
But
the hour and then allow for extra Q&A, time for Q&A. So thank you for
yeah,
that.
yeah, so we did manage to get it in that hour. Now I can jump back to slides and I can go into topics. So either use the chat if there's a topic you'd like me to talk more about, or use the Q&A if you have more questions. But this is where we really want to go as interactive as we can for the next 15 minutes or so.
And I offer a third option is if you want to come off mute, raise your hand, use a raise the hand function.
Oh, yeah, that would be great.
I'll take you off mute, and then then when you're done, if you put yourself back on mute, I'd appreciate it. So
That's really cool. And for those of you that were looking for it, the website is there and my email address is there. By the way, because I'm freelancing and doing mostly thought leadership and speaking, I have all kinds of time and I do give it away freely. So yeah, no, I'm not going to do a project for you for free. But if you just want to pick my brain on something, please reach out.
So Phyllis, someone did ask me on the side if you have any webinar or materials on governance and CMDB. That's something you've done in the past?
Yeah, so I write for 2 organizations. I write for the IT Chronicles and Support World for HDI. If you go to my website, there's a link that you can click to get to my various blogs. And I also have some blogs hot linked in the blog section of my website. And that's going to keep growing. And you're also going to give me an opportunity to talk about what I'm going to be doing next, which is starting Tuesday. I'm going to have a 3-minute video called 2 Cent Tuesdays. So every Tuesday, I'm going to talk about a topic. And for the person that was asking CMDB and governance, there is something recent that I wrote on governance, CMDB, and portal. Because one of the biggest things that's going to come up as you move into an enterprise portal is how do you govern an enterprise portal? And I could spend an hour just on that, right? But there's definitely something that I wrote within the last 2 to 3 months on governing the portal. And I do a lot of writing on CMDB and what you should be doing on it. So explore those archives. They're all the content in those 2 areas is all free content.
Yeah, appreciate that. I know our audience attendees will get a lot of value out of that, and we'll do what we'll do. It doesn't look like there's any new questions coming in to Q&A or chat. So I think at this point we'll let everyone go. Phyllis, we'd love to have you back. This does conclude our presentation. I'd like to thank Phyllis for sharing her insight and time with us today. Her contact information can be found in the slide deck. At the end of this event, you will get a link to take an exit survey. Please take time to fill it out. Your feedback is helpful for us to plan future events. The recording and other links will be sent to you as part of the recording package within 5 business days. As always, you can find these on the ITSM CG website. We're always looking for fresh ideas. Someone in chat mentioned they're using chatbots. Someone else mentioned they're doing some portal design. Love for you to contact me. I would set you up with an event that we can host to share your success stories. So email me directly and we'll get connected that way. Thank you again, Phyllis, for your time.
Oh, my pleasure. And yes, I'm happy to come back.
Yeah, that
so
would be awesome. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for attending today. Have a good day.
Thank you, everybody. Take care.